All right, well, hi everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can go ahead and start our presentation on RPR. So welcome everyone, I'm excited. I don't get to teach classes for agents out in Hawaii all that much. I'm over in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, so I'm really excited to be able to do this with you today. And today we're going to talk RPR, a day in the life with a realtor. And what we're going to do is just go through a really quick PowerPoint presentation, and then I'm going to go ahead and shut my camera off and do a live demo. And throughout the demo, we'll be both in the RPR desktop as well as the RPR mobile device. And with me is Veronica McManus. She's also with RPR, and she may want to comment on some of the things that we're going through today. And I'll also keep my eye on the chat and the Q&A. So if you have a question at any time, I'm very talkative. I want to see the engagement. So go ahead and type your question or type your chat into that dialog box, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all of those questions that you have throughout the presentation today. So just a little background on RPR. We want you to be a wildly successful realtor. In order to do that, you need to close more deals, but it's hard to differentiate yourself from the competition. It's hard to verify property and data information, and your hard work should lead to your success, which is why we built the nation's largest property database exclusively for realtors. So our ground layer of information is public record data, and then we have over 350 data sources that go on top of that public record data. For every parcel across the US almost, we have over 166 million parcels in the RPR platform, which is both residential and commercial. And you have access to all of those parcels as far as public record data goes. And then because your local MLS participates, you also have that layer of MLS active, sold, and off-market data that's available to you as well. Now, throughout the platform today, we're going to talk about those estimates of value. These are your AVMs and your RVMs. So just to give you a little bit of breakdown on this information, your AVM is an automated valuation model, and that's a market value estimate that's calculated using publicly available information. So you will see these in RPR. And if you see an AVM, that does compete with the consumer AVMs that are on the forefront. So if you go to Chase, if you go to Bank of America, if you go to Zillow, those all provide an estimate of properties value using publicly available information. We also display an RVM, and what makes the RVM unique is that it's trademarked to RPR, so it's owned by members of the National Association of Realtors, and this is the Realtors Valuation Model. So it's a market value estimate calculated using publicly available information. And then we also include that local layer of MLS active, sold, and off-market data to determine the estimate of properties value. So this is the highest valuation of any product that's available. Now, throughout the presentation today, we're going to go over information for over an hour. And the last thing as a trainer that I want to do is have all of this information kind of jump out and start to overwhelm you. So just sit back and relax, absorb the information that you're going to learn today. And if 2 or 3 things happen to catch your attention, that's going to be awesome. But we do have all of these tips for learning built right into the RPR platform. So jot down a little note if something catches your attention. You can always go back into RPR and use the resources that we have available for you. One of the resources that we have for you is a learning menu, and that's the Scholar Cap that you're going to see on the upper right-hand side of the RPR homepage. You can click on that Scholar Cap. It's going to open up a little dialog box, and you're going to see tips in video format that you can watch, top questions that we get from our agents. So you can go ahead and use that as a learning resource. What's unique about this is it is page specific. So the deeper you are within RPR, your learning menu options are going to change, and they're going to be more in depth on a property report. So it does work for you. Now we're going to go ahead and get started. You guys can access RPR generally on any Windows-based computer or MacBook computer. You can use whatever browser you want. You just go to our website, which is www.narrpr.com to access our platform. But we actually make it a little bit easier. I should say your MLS makes it a little bit easier because we do have a deep link for you. And when you're in your Matrix platform and you're looking at a property report, report or a property profile, you're going to see all of those data share links. And one of those links is that RPR logo. So anytime that you're at a property in your MLS, you can click on that logo and it's going to bring you right into that property summary within the RPR platform. And then once you're on, you can always go back to the homepage within RPR if you wanted to perform different unique searches. So that deep link did go live with your association today, I believe. So you guys should see that in your platform. But we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to turn off my camera so I can go full screen. And then we're going to go ahead and get started with our live webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to our desktop. Here we are at the homepage within the RPR platform. I mentioned earlier we have that ScholarCap learning resource for you. This is your learning menu, so you can click on that. You can get tips and tricks on how to use RPR right from this menu. And what we also have for you is a shortcut menu. So you may log into RPR and right away you're going to see this pink box pop up. And that just allows you to go through almost like a wizard. We're going to walk you through step by step on how to perform that function, whether you're making a pre-listing presentation, whether you're creating a CMA, whether you're looking at market area activity. All of that information is going to be right there within the RPR platform. If you want to get rid of this little window, just go ahead and hit that snooze for a week, and it's going to go right into this pink orb that you have on the upper right-hand side, right next to your name. Another resource I want to point out before we get into the live demo, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom of the RPR homepage. And on the bottom right-hand side, you're going to see our customer support desk phone number. I know that was typed into that chat box. So if you ever need help, anytime you're in RPR, you can reach out to our support desk. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also have a live chat if you just want to chat with our support desk. And then as Michael mentioned, check out our blog. We have a link to our blog right here on the bottom as well, which is going to house a whole bunch of learning resources for you, whether you're looking for full webinars, if you're looking for video supplements, user guides, quick start guides. Those are all available for you on our blog. So what we're going to do today in our day-to-day life is talk about how agents use RPR when they're working with sellers, and we're going to talk about how agents use RPR when they're working with buyers. So we're going to start with our seller demo. And we have our search bar right here front and center. So all of the different property searches are here labeled right on our top search bar. So we're going to start with our all properties. Now, a lot of the time when an agent goes in, they're using RPR to start their property search, whether it's for a listing presentation, they're going to start with a property address. So I could come in and say, a seller reached out to me, they're interested in selling their property. They go ahead and give me their property address. So I can just type that address into our search bar. And it's going to come up as I start to type. It's actually going to do an auto search and it's going to say, hey, I found a property that meets that address. I can click right on that and it brings it into my search bar. And that is like the best case scenario when you're looking for an off-market property is when you have that address. But it's not always the scenario. So I just want to point out that we do have under this advanced link here, when you're looking for parcel information, you do have the ability to search by owner or company name. Maybe you don't have the exact property address. Maybe you have a zip code, you have the owner name, you could type that information in and it's going to give you a series of search results based off of that info. If you have the tax ID number, parcel ID number, APN number, whatever you call that, you can also search by that as well. So we do have multiple ways for you to be able to go in and pull up an off-market property if you don't have that exact property address. I'm going to go ahead and click on my magnifying glass, which is going to go ahead and pull up our subject property detail. Here we are with our property summary. you're going to see we have right front and center our property address, and to the far right of our property address, you're going to see a little star, and this allows you to save the property as a favorite. This is a tool that I like to use very much in RPR. If you save a property as a favorite, maybe it's something you're going to be researching a little more frequently than not. When you save that property, if you happen to navigate away from that page, maybe you log out of RPR and you log back into RPR, that saved goes right here under your saved property list. So I can find all of those saved properties that I have. I can click on it and I can pull it right up. Another feature that I like about the saved properties, and I'll demo that when we get into our mobile device, you can also receive a push notification on a saved property. So if I am working with a homeowner and I'm working on getting them a comparative market analysis for their property, and I have their property saved, I will be alerted if anything changes on this property, whether it's a change in the property's estimated value, whether it's a change in the property status. So if it goes from off market to active, you're prompted and you get a notification through your mobile device. So I like to know what's going on with those saved properties. So that's another reason I like to save it. Now, when you work with RPR, it's really helping you create efficiencies in your day-to-day workflow. So when you're utilizing all of those research portals or places to get property information, RPR's goal is to help you streamline that information so you don't have to go to as many places. So think of RPR as a layering platform, and we have all of those layers for every parcel within RPR. So we have the property summary, which is going to give you that high level overview. We have that in-depth on the property history. We can give you local marketplace statistics. We can refine the value for a property. You can generate a comparative analysis, and you can look at all of the neighborhood demographics. So I want to point out some of the resources that are beneficial for you when you're prepping for that listing presentation. And the first thing, or first couple of things I want to talk about, is how to do research on the home, how to look at neighborhood information and market area information. So we're going to start with the property summary that we have here. We're going to be able to see right under the property address that we do have this being off market, which means it's not currently listed within the MLS system. Although we do have a little tag indicator saying we do have a historic sale date back in 2002. So the property did sell or change hand about 18 years ago. We get that RVM value. So if we go back to that PowerPoint, remember that RVM value looked at public record data and local MLS active sold and off market data to determine the property's value. We're going to get the basic facts of the property. This information comes in from our public record data. So it's 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. It's a single family home. We get the living area, we get the price per square footage, and we get the homeowner notification. Just below that, we do have the street view as well as the overhead view. Now, when we're looking at in a street view, we do use Google for all of our property images. This is an interactive image, so I do have the ability to click into that, and then I can pan or zoom that image around. Now, keep in mind, our images are only going to be as good as Google can get us. So sometimes your image may be off center a little bit. You may have a utility truck. It could be a bad weather day. If it's a gated community or a private community, we may not be able to get that Google image for the street view if Google can't obtain it. So then we would just have that overhead view. So you do get those images. And then you will see just below the images, you do have a section where you can come in and add notes. You also have the ability to upload photos. And what I like about having the ability to upload photos is that you can include these images in that pricing report or that presentation report that you may provide to your seller. So if I'm not happy with this street view image, I can come into RPR. I have the ability to upload photos. So I'm going to come into my desktop and I'm going to find my sample photo. This is just a generic sample. I'm going to open it. It's going to import it into the RPR platform. And then I have the ability to edit this. And now I have an option in here where I can use this for the cover page of my report. So it just allows me to set a little bit of a customization factor into my report. So you do have the ability to upload your own photos. And then just to the right of that, you will see seller's proceeds. So you have that real quick, high, low encumbrances, estimated closing costs, concessions. You can save and close this and include it in your presentation report at the end. If you want to do a real quick one-off, you can save and print the form as well. So you do have seller's proceeds. You're going to get the homeowner fax, which includes the mailing address, owner name. You're going to get home facts, again, which come from public record data. So this is going to be your beds, your bathrooms, partial baths, living area, lot size, garage, heating, cooling, basement. You're also going to see you have a column here where you can validate property facts. So if any changes were done to the property, maybe you want to come in and say, hey, this is actually a 2-bath home, which is 1 full and 1 partial. I can go ahead and add that information in and save it. And then that will be available on the report that I provide to my seller. I also have the ability to add a row. So if there's additional property features, you can come in and you have the ability to add things like a fireplace, pool, traffic. If there's a unique property feature that you want to add, maybe you can come in and say, hey, I want to add that there's solar panels on this property. So you can come in and add that, hit save, and it's going to add it as a property feature. Okay, so you do have the ability to add property features. You can confirm any property facts that you need to for the property, and that gets included in your report. By the way, guys, when you're adding this information, whether you're uploading photos, you're adding additional parcel information, you're validating property facts, this information will be in RPR for you who is the user. Or your client if you choose to share that information with them. You're going to get median estimated home value. You can look at it over time. You can span it over 3 years. You can span it over 1 year. You have the property, the zip code, the county, the state. You have both interior and exterior details, which comes from public record. You have location details when it comes to walkability. You get zoning information for flood info. You're going to get schools based off of location. You will notice the schools are actually linked. So if I click on the school name, it's going to load and give you that school summary information. You get the ratings and you have the reviews. I'm going to go ahead and hit that back button. It's going to take us back to our property detail. We have the legal description for the property. I get a summary on mortgage information, tax information, and deed records. So right here, I get that snapshot of equity. I'm going to scroll up to the top. You will see over here on the right-hand side, we have some local marketplace statistics. So if you're interested in median list price, sales price, 12-month change in value, days on market, we have all of those links here. So all of that information is available to you on the summary page. Now you do have on the upper right-hand side the ability to do a quick print on this information. So if you just wanted to do a real quick grab and go, you do have the ability to print this information out. I'm going to cancel it and close out of this dialog box. Other than that, if you want to get a real detailed report, and you want to include those layers, right? You can navigate through these layers, and then at the end, you're going to go into create a report. So we're going to talk about printing options as we go through the presentation today. The next thing I want to take a look at when we're researching property information, of course, is diving in and taking a look at that property history. So we're going to look at the next layer of information. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and click on the history tab that we have to the top. And what we're going to see here is a really nice sales and financing activity graph. This is going to show any activity, whether it comes to sales activity, listing activity, financing activity. As we could see back here in early 2016, we had a little financing activity. So I can hover over that icon, and I'm going to see that they pulled a revolving credit line out on their property. I can see that fluctuation of the estimated property value over time. So we can kind of look to see when those trends are, the highs and the lows. Usually they always hit around the same time of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how that looks back next year. If I scroll down, we're going to get prior sales transactions. And when you look at the prior sales transactions, you're going to get that layering of information again. So you'll see you have these radial buttons at the top where I can toggle between listing records, or I could toggle between public sales records. And the sales records are really going to be any type of property deed transfer. So not only is it regular sale, but here we could see in 2001 there was an interfamily transfer, so the property's been transferred, and then we did have a deed sale here in 2002, and since then we've had no sales. So we do have the ability to validate that owner information. We get a little bit of mortgage information here as well. We can scroll down further and get tax assessment information over time. So I can scroll through all of the tax years to get an idea of the increase for the assessment of property value or land value. It's like we had a big jump in between 2018 and 2019. And then we could do the same thing with mortgage information. So we can kind of come back and try to take a look at what's happened with the equity in the property. Do they have it? Do they not have it? I'm starting to see a lot of reverse mortgages as well. So that's something that you could take a look at and you would have here. And then of course, if there's any distressed information tied to the property, that would appear here as well. So all of that information is housed under our history tab. So you can always dive in, get a clear picture of financing information and owner information. It's always good to take a look at that public record owner information. Make sure you know if the property's in a trust or if it's under property ownership.
Hey, Katie?
Yes.
This is excellent, and I think everybody's enjoying it. We did have a question in the chat box, and Veronica's doing an excellent job of trying to keep up here, but one question I think will lead to another here, so I was hoping you'd answer it live. Leslie Lewis asks, is there a way to search and send listings? It seems like you can only print reports for one property at a time. And I think this would be a good time to kind of talk about the different role that RPR plays versus Matrix and kind of the MLS. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the way I kind of like to describe RPR, RPR is a unique platform, and we will talk about this when we're looking at the platform, utilizing it when you're working with buyers, because that's a lot of the times when you want to be able to identify a search and automatically notify your buyers of any matching properties. And RPR is not really going to be the tool that you're going to use to do that auto notification. Honestly, Matrix is going to be your best resource to do that. Matrix is your MLS system, really is your point of entry system. So that's going to be that first line of defense with auto notifying those properties to your buyer. We have unique tools within RPR which can help you identify good areas for a buyer, whether they're really interested in that quality of life or that neighborhood lifestyle. If they're really concerned with travel times or commute times, I'm going to show you some of those tools. But right now, RPR doesn't use any sort of auto notification. And we are really a realtor tool. And I don't want to say we're kind of a private system or a lock system, but we are. RPR is only available to members of the National Association of Realtors. So you have to be a realtor member in order to access it. We do not syndicate, we don't sell, we don't redistribute, we don't have a consumer facing search engine. We're not going to compete in any way. We are a tool for realtors to use as a resource to help get the most property information that they can in a single resource database to help create efficiencies in their workflow, and then be able to determine at that agent level what information is pertinent to their client or that customer at what point in the transaction and when they want to share that with them. So that's really our goal.
That's perfect. Thanks, Katie.
You're welcome. And that was a great question. And we do have ways that, of course, you can print a summary of properties and email it as a PDF report, but we'll get back to, again, working with sellers. And one of the things that I want to touch base on with RPR is looking at local statistics. And we have two resources for you to look at. And the first one I want to start with are some of the statistics that we have under our mapping tools. And we're going to look at the mapping tools a couple of times through our presentation today. So I'm going to jump into the map right away. And all I did, if I shrink the map, again, you have, when you look at the summary of a property, you have the map on the right-hand side. It's right at the top of that property summary. And we have a link right here on the lower right-hand side that says bigger map. That expands that map view, and it just throws all of the property information down below it. So you don't lose that data, it's just underneath it. And I'm going to try to centralize my screen here, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, because when you zoom out, you start to get a kind of like a parcel view of what's going on in the market area. So I can see all of the boundaries for neighboring properties. I'm going to see here overlaid in the map. We have a couple of different map layers. I prefer, as a user, the road view. That's going to put some landmarks into the map so I can see where we have public bus stations. You can see where there's high points of interest. So if there's, an art center nearby or a university nearby, if you're zoomed out far enough, you're going to see that information within the map. You can kind of see where those landmarks are within the map view. This is the road view. On the upper right-hand side, you do have that gray washed out view. You have that road view. And then if you're zoomed in enough, you have that aerial and you have that overhead view. I like to get my view where I can kind of see what's going on with the inventory around my property. And I'm looking for certain triggers to appear on the map, if you will. And to the bottom, you do get that legend. So I'm looking for lots of nice, pretty green icons. And those nice, pretty green icons are indicating to me that properties within the view have recently sold, right? So I could come in, I can click on that. It's interactive. I can get that summary of property information. This is going to tell me that a property leased, so I can get leasing information on my map as well. I can also come in here and see properties that are actively listed. I can, in this summary here, see if that's actually a competing property or not. That's a little bit higher list price than the RVM value for my property right here. So you can see what's going on inventory wise. You'll see if there's any properties that are pended, any properties that are in financial distress are going to appear red. And that just helps me get insight into what's going on with that local inventory. And then I like to come down to the lower right-hand side of my map, and you're going to see our heat maps. And heat maps will allow you to overlay heating and cooling color schemes on the map to see what's going on with market data. So I like to come in here if you want to see that 12-month change in estimated property value. It looks like my screen just froze on me, so bear with me for a second. I'm going to do a real quick refresh. Hopefully we're not having internet issues over my house, although I haven't had any issues today, so let's see what happens.
Michael, while Katie is getting squared away, which I'm sure she'll be squared away fairly soon, I definitely want to open up
There we go.
the chat and remind everyone to plug their questions into the chat, and happy to answer them.
I got a quick one while we're getting together. Where does the public records data come from?
The public record data comes from our public record supplier, which is Black Knight, one of the two major providers of public record data. And we get that updated. We get records in every day. And if you ever have any questions about that, you can find that information on your MLS dashboard, Michael. That dashboard that I'm referencing is just for Michael's use, but he can look and see when we have that data come in on a daily basis. And generally, I think one of the public record features that will mostly impact your subscribers, in addition to getting the basic info on those properties, but is the distress data and sold data, because we have all the sold data. So if there are any properties that are sold outside of the MLS and your subscribers want to use that data in their CMAs, they'll be able to, because those will show up generally about 6 weeks after closing, unlike anything that closes within the MLS that's going to show up sooner.
Excellent, excellent. I was kind of leading the witness to point out here that you have the best of both worlds as a subscriber to High Central MLS. You have Black Knight public record data via RPR, your subscription to RPR, and then you have the CoreLogic and the massage. We do a lot of work with CoreLogic to make sure the public records data that we're putting into Realist is up to date and massaged and corrected and da-da-da-da. But you have the best of both worlds as a realtor. You get to see both of those things and put those in front of your clients.
And the same thing here too, Michael. We have a dedicated, as you can imagine, a dedicated data team. And we do the same thing. We have a point person within the data team that's been working with Black Knight for the past couple of years to really bring those records up and above and beyond. And not only has it helped RPR, but because of our efforts, pretty much anyone that receives their public record data from Black Knight has been a beneficiary of our massaging of that data. So your subscribers can rest assured they're in great hands between RPR and High Central. So I'll stop talking now and turn it back over to Katie.
I think I almost sprained my arm patting ourselves on the back. This looks good. Take it away, Katie. Sorry.
All right. Sorry about that. But this is one of our heat maps, and this is going to show you that fluctuation of values where you could see that 12-month change in estimated value. So that's going to give you your year over year. So it's going to take a look at how those property values fluctuated here. We're probably looking at October of 2019, year over year, looking at that property value to October of 2020. You can take a look at price per square foot with property value. We do have concentration of distressed properties. So you're going to see that this is your probably your estimated value price per square foot. You can look at concentration of distressed properties so you can see where those trends are on the island. We have average sales price, average list price. One that I love to take a look at for that listing presentation is that pending sale concentration. So you can kind of calm those fears of that homeowner and say, hey, you're in an area you're in a medium pending sale concentration. So you can validate that properties are moving. You have your list price versus sales price. So this one is going to show these little pockets of blue. These little pockets of blue are where you have properties selling. The deeper the blue, the higher increment of sales price over list price. And then, of course, where those pockets are of pink, you have properties that are selling below list price and at what increment below list price, depending on the color scale. And then if you're looking at an area that almost looks like it's a white overlay or a clear, opaque kind of color, properties are selling at list price at point of sale. So you can talk about that. You have density. I'm sure if flood zones is a concern, you can always talk about that flood zone map as well. So looking at those neighborhood statistics through the heat map is a great tool for your client. I'm going to shrink this. And then I want to talk about some other statistics that we have, which is how this home compares to local homes in the market. And that's going to be found under our charts layer. And when it comes to the charts and the graphs and some of the other data sources that we pull in outside of our data provider, RPR is very transparent with our information. So anytime you're looking at the charts, you're going to see these little links that say about this data. So we have median estimated home value versus your median list price. We have sales price versus sales volume. So even if you're a newer agent and you're not really sure what these graphs are telling you, your sales price is always going to be driven by the volume, and the pricing lags the volume actually, because volume is the driver to those pricing movements. So these little charts are going to kind of explain that under this link that says about this data. And then we're telling you where we're sourcing that information. So we're actually looking at both public record sales and MLS sales. So again, you're getting that layering of information, and we're updating these graphs on a monthly basis. So we're looking at these trended in a monthly period. And what I like about these is you can come in and look at, hey, well, what's going on just with sales price versus sales volume when it comes to properties that sell through the MLS. You can look at properties that sell through the MLS and public record, and you can also compare those trends to public record. So if you wanted to compare how volume is driving pricing movements, this oftentimes could be a good discussion on why it's better to list with a realtor when you have issues with volume, because a lot of the times we're going to indicate a higher sales price when that property sells through that MLS. So you can use that public record to MLS comparison. Again, you have list price versus list volume. And then you just get that snapshot of what's going on with the inventory and how this house compares to the other properties in the market. So you get that quick snapshot. There's 129 active single family homes listed in the zip code. They're not all comparable properties. It's just total inventory. And then you get the trend with the condos and the multifamilies as well. And then you can see, hey, this is the median sales price per by square footage. Here's our property, and here's a snapshot of what's going on with comparable properties as well. Price per square foot, our home, what's going on with the inventory for comparable properties around our subject properties, price per square foot, same thing, price per bedroom, price range, age range. So you can see what that local competition is out of the influx of all the inventory on the marketplace. So you do have the ability to come in and really get a good idea what's going on trending wise, statistic wise with those heat maps. And then you can see how this property lines up to other homes in the market. So that's one way that you could do a lot of of that property research, getting an idea of what's going on with those local market conditions. The next thing that I want to talk about when you're researching is, of course, pricing that property. And there's a couple of pricing tools that I want to touch base on. And that's going to be our refining of our value, as well as creating that comp analysis. So when you're looking at RPR, again, we provide you with that RVM tool. I have, again, that transparency, that disclosure here where you can hover over that information icon. And this is going to talk about our RVM and how we generate that value. We're going to date and timestamp that. So the last time this property was analyzed for an estimate of the property's value was November 11th, 2020, right? So that was just only a couple, I had to look at my watch. I can't believe we're in December already. So that is, that's looking at the property's value. So around the middle of the month, we're going to, again, assess that property's value. Now, when we talk about our pricing tools, I don't want to confuse the RVM with creating a CMA. So remember, when you're looking at the estimate of a property's value, this is based off of an algorithm, a mathematical algorithm based off of property characteristics and sales trends. You don't go in, you don't handpick properties, it's just algorithms saying, hey, we're looking at this property and we think this is what buyers would purchase the property for. Essentially, it's kind of like the sticker price, right? Right underneath this RVM value, we have a link here that says view details. And this is just going to give you a little bit of insight. So it's going to give you that RVM value, and it's going to give you the range. And why I like the RVM range, when you look at an estimate of property value, right? One of the largest impacts that agents have with that is that no one's physically going to look at the property, right? It's not a CMA. All of those assumptions are kind of flittering overhead like butterflies. You know, well, what if the property has a new kitchen, or what if the property doesn't have a new kitchen, or what if this happens, or what if that happens, or what if it's distressed, or what if it's not distressed? No one actually goes and looks at the property, right? So with an RVM or an AVM, it's assumed that all properties are in average condition, and we know that's not always the case. So we do provide you with a range, and that simply means, hey, if all of these properties are similar to one another as far as updates and the quality of those updates, then we could assume this property is in average condition and the value is going to be right around $755,000. If it's below average, it could be lower. If it's above average, it could be higher. And then we come in and we give you a sampling of the property. So you, as the agent, you can come in and visually see and say, hey, yes, all of these, they're all close together. They're all similar. They don't have the updates. They do have the updates. So you can get an idea of where the pricing would be within that spectrum. You're also going to see a confidence score. And this confidence score, again, has that little information icon, so you can hover over that. And what that's telling you is we use multiple algorithms to determine this value. And the closer our models results are, the stronger our confidence score is, right? And then I do have a question out there. On the AVM details sheet, how recent are the sold properties? You're actually going to see that sold date right here disclosed on this sheet. Okay, so you're going to know the sold date of those properties. You can print this page out. What I actually like to do is print this page out. Let me go ahead and do my right click. I'm going to print. And instead of printing it to a paper copy, I save it as a PDF, right? And I'm going to go ahead, save as the PDF. I'm going to go ahead and open it in my PDF preview. Chrome updated it on me, so I want to go ahead and do a file. I'm going to save it right on my desktop. And this is my Myrtle Street RVM 2448. So I'm going to go ahead and save that AVM. I want to save it right on my desktop. So I have that, and then I actually have the ability to incorporate this into my report. Oh, hang on. Let me go ahead and resume my share. So go ahead. I saved it as a PDF. I'm going to close out of it. And then that's kind of on a back burner. We'll get to that in just a minute. So you do have that information. Also here, you do get that month over month, and you get that year over year. Then you have the ability to come in and refine that value. And there's multiple ways you can refine the value, right? One way you can refine the value is by adjusting the basic facts. And the reason why you can do that, part of RPR's algorithm in determining the property's value is by the value of bundled property characteristics. Now, we pull that information in from public records. So if there's an error or omission, maybe this property has a half bath that we neglected to count. So we can come in and apply those changes. And if we change that half bath counter, it's going to add just under $60,000 in value to the property's value. So if there is an error or omission from public record, you can update that information, and it's going to change that value on the fly. You also have the ability to refine the value based on home improvements. Again, this information, if you hover over that information icon as a trainer, I love these because all the information that you need is right under those information icons. So you can come in and see that we use a data provider by the name of Hanley Wood. They're a national leader in new construction and housing redevelopment market data. So they provide us with the home improvements as well as the depreciation. It's done annually and at a regional level. So you'll see we have a pick list of options. You can add attic insulation, bedroom additions, deck additions. Maybe they did a mid-range kitchen remodel, and they remodeled that kitchen back in March of 2018, and it cost them $20,000. You can go in and add that information. It will depreciate over time, but it's going to add value to the property. So you can refine the value based on home improvements that were done to the property. And you can refine the value based on needed improvements as well. So maybe there's a broken window that needs to be fixed, and you're requesting that they have that fixed before they list their property, and a new window costs $1,000. So you can depreciate the home based off of that needed improvement as well. You can play with this to see what those numbers would be. You always have the ability to restore that original result if you want to erase it, but you can come in and add those home improvements. If it's a unique improvement and you don't see it on this list, at the very bottom, there is an other where you can type it in yourself. So just get the information from the homeowner, what the improvement was, the day they completed it, and what they paid for it. And you can add an improvement on the fly as well. When we scroll to the lower portion of this page, you're going to see that you can refine the value based on local home and market conditions. And this is what I feel is one of the most powerful drivers in the RPR platform. You can take a look at all of those things that we've absorbed, even just looking at those few layers of information, right? Looking at the imagery, looking at the flood data, looking at the property characteristics, looking at the heat maps for those market trends. you know, what are those local market conditions right now? If you have high inventory and your days on market's creeping up, you know, maybe you're coming into December, so your pool of buyers is dropping until after the first of the year, you know, you're in a little bit of a tougher market. Maybe you're not seeing that in Hawaii and you're having a lot of people now come to the island. They're looking for their little getaway property. So that may be a price driver with the sale of the property. So you're just using this to kind of talk about what those local market conditions are and how they're affecting the market. How is the home exterior condition? Is it relative to comparable properties? Is that curb appeal a little bit nicer, or is it a little bit worse? So you're just using these sliding scales. Home interior condition, the lot size, the view. I'm sure that could be a huge price predictor in your market. Privacy, all of those are kind of like that buyer demand, those wants, that quality that makes every property unique, and that's going to refine that property's value. And then ultimately what you want to be able to do within your pricing is back this up by creating that comp analysis. So you have that tool which allows you to have that discussion about the home's market value, and then you can come in and run a comparative market analysis to back this information up. This is where you're going in, you're identifying your subject property, you're hand picking comps, and you're setting that pricing. We actually have two CMAs within RPR. We have a more detailed sales comparison analysis, which is going to yield a valuation workbook. This one is a little more detailed when you generate your comparable properties and make adjustments. If you do adjustments, you're going to use a monetary amount. We're going to cover the comparative analysis, which is a little bit quicker. It's an easier workflow. But after this presentation, if you have any questions on the difference between the two, we have a little video right here that talks about it. They're both done in a wizard format, walks you through step by step. It's 4 steps. Step number 1 is confirming those home facts for the property, the beds, the baths, the lot size, square footage. If you want to add additional features for the property, you can add those additional features. You're going to find comps. This is really where you see a streamlining of that property information come in, because RPR is going to pull any closed sales transaction through public record, as well as any MLS sold transactions. So you're not going to miss any recorded sale. You can add a property by listing address if there's a property that you want to add as a comparable, or you can just search an area for several properties and pick the ones that you want to use. Your subject property is always going to be at the top. RPR is going to come in and set some of those search factors for you. So if you're looking at a single family property, it's going to identify single family comps. It's going to match property type to property type. You can do a CMA for any property type that's available within the RPR platform. It's going to pull sold properties, but it's also going to pull in any active inventory as well, but that's at the bottom of the list, so it doesn't really interfere with those solds. And then something I also want to point out, because of your market, we do have a keyword feature here. So if your subject property does have that unique feature and you want to be sure that your comparable properties has that unique feature, maybe it's a property that has stables. You can go ahead and add stables. Maybe it has an extra garage. Maybe it has a pool. So you want all comparable properties to have a pool. You can go ahead and add that in the keyword, and RPR will look through all of those data fields to identify comparable properties that have that same feature. You can do sold date based off of a pick list, whether it's the last 18, 12, 6, 3, last month, last week. You can also do a date range if you wanted to throw calendar dates in there. And then you're going to get that differential on the beds, the bathrooms, the living area, the square footage. You can tighten these fields up if you want to tighten these fields up. You can include things like lot size, price range, price per square foot in your built as well. And then as far as where your comparable properties are located, just hit that search button on the bottom, and any comp within our map view is going to go ahead and pop up. Now you can come in and say, hey, I don't really like this. I like to know that all of my comparable properties are within a half mile. I can come in and do a radius search if I want to do a radius search. Maybe I want to see if any comparable properties are actually in the neighborhood that this house is in. I can go ahead and pull up comparable properties that way as well. So you do have the ability to use the geography drop downs, or you can just zoom in and zoom out from your map view. So we can come in here and start picking properties that we want to use as part of our comparison market analysis. If we want more information on a comparable property, just click more details, and it's going to open up that full summary page. So you get all the information that you need to do that research for that potential comparable property. If you're not comfortable picking your comps from within your map view, you can scroll down below and pick your comparables from your list view, and you can sort by address, proximity, days on market, sold date, amount, square footage, living area, beds, baths. You can come in, pick the comparable property, select it to add it to your comps, and then you're good to go. Now, when you're picking your comps, you will see this little highlight for comparable properties that were used in the RVM. That's really just for your knowledge. The RVM does not impact the comparable sales price. It's solely based off of the comparable properties that you select. I'm going to go ahead and update my evaluation now that I have my comparable properties. And I'm going to go ahead and make adjustments. Now, there's some aesthetics that I can do. If I want to enlarge my photos, I can enlarge my photos. If I want to change the order of my comparable properties, I can change the sort order as well. And then we're just going to come in and rate our comps compared to our subject property, excluding square footage. So you're just coming in saying, hey, this property is a little worse, or this property is a little bit better. So just like we saw with our RVM sliders, you're going to have those sliders as well. You're going to see how that impacts your subject property. If it raises the value or lowers the value, that lowered price is going to be in red. That positive adjustment is going to be in black. You're going to get your average adjusted result under your subject property. And this is really for example purposes only. You do have a section for notes. You can keep these private if you want to yourself. You just uncheck that box, but keeping that box checked is going to make these client or customer friendly notes. Okay. And then you're going to go ahead and update your evaluation and close. You're going to get your pricing. You can edit this. So if you want to go ahead and put your low price in, if you want to put your high price in, okay, you can enter that information. That way you can discuss that with the homeowner as you're coming to a recommended price. And then you can go ahead and create that seller's report. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create report. It's going to load that property detail. It's going to bring us into our reports page. It's going to bring us right to our seller's report, which is that data supported reality check. So as you've done all of that research for that listing presentation, we're going to suggest you utilize the seller's report. Now, with this being said, you can go in and select that link that says show sample. This is going to give you a generic preview of what the report will look like. You can thumbnail through the pages. all inclusive, the report is about 75 pages long, but you do have the ability to customize that report as well. So going into more details allows you to customize any RPR report. But before we get to the customization, I want to direct your attention to the right-hand side of our page, because over here, you're going to see a sample cover page. You're going to see your contact information that's included in the report. And I want you to scroll to the not to the bottom, but right here, you're going to see your profile info. So just visually take a look at that. Make sure we have an up-to-date photo. Your agent contact information is correct. Your phone number is correct. If it's not, click this link here that says view full profile and go ahead and update that contact information. Once that contact information is up to date, it's going to appear as part of the cover page on your report. Just above that, we have a link here that says manage custom pages, and that allows you to incorporate your own content into the RPR platform. So if you have something like a welcome letter that you use for all of your clients, maybe you have some client testimonials that you like to share, you have your client testimonials. I want to come in and add, maybe I have a bio that I'd like to add. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to go into my bio. I want to add that and include that in my report. So it's going to go ahead and upload my agent bio. Once my agent bio is uploaded, I'm going to come in and I'm going to add, I want to go to my desktop, because on my desktop was the RVM for our Myrtle property. So I'm going to go ahead. And for some reason, it won't let me grab it. So I'll grab another one that I pre-generated. I'm going to open it and it's going to import that right into RPR as well. So I can have up to 5 custom pages. Once I have those custom pages, I have the ability to put them at the beginning or at the end. I can delete pages if it's something that I don't want to use anymore. And I also have the ability to drag and drop them and put them in an order that I want as well. So you do have that ability. And then when you're creating that report, okay, let me go ahead and close out of that. You're going to see I have those custom pages right here at the top. So I can pick and choose the custom pages I want to include. And then I can go through my report elements. So our seller's report is going to pull together that layering of information. Property summary is going to include all of our pricing features, right? The refined value, the comp analysis. It's going to contain the home facts. On the home facts page is going to contain the homeowner facts. We're going to have extended home facts. We're going to have property photos. So if there's previous listings with historical photos, you can uncheck those boxes, and then those features will not be included in our report. So you can go detail by detail. We're going to include property history. We're going to have those charts and graphs for assessed value and mortgage information. We're going to have that sales and financing activity graph. We're going to include market activity. So not only are we going to talk about the seller's property, the pricing trends around the seller's property, the market health around the seller's property, but we're going to talk about local inventory around the seller's property as well. So you're going to get that market area activity, list price versus sales price heat map. You're going to get those market health comparisons and sales trends. and you're going to get local inventory, right? So you're going to get that high, average, low, median, sales price, days on market based off of the local inventory. You can control the inventory that goes into the report as well. So a lot of times when you're sitting down at that listing presentation, you like to share all of the wealth about their property, but you want to share the wealth about those competing properties as well, because those nearby active properties, that's the competition for your homeowner. So you want to be able to include that market area activity. So you have that. You can include actives, pending, solds, distress. If it's a status that you don't want to include, just uncheck that box. You get your pricing strategy, you get your comp analysis result. There's that seller's proceeds calculator if you want to include that. You can limit market activity. You can include how you want that information to be displayed. And another thing I want to point out here, if the RVM for the property is just not jiving, right? It's not validated. It's a strong confidence score. It's a unique property. You can suppress that information from your reports as well. You can personalize the report with the seller name. You can type in that call to action in that message, and then you can email it direct to that property owner right from RPR. So just hit run report and it's going to go ahead and send that seller's report out. Now I have a pre-generated seller's report just so you can see a sample of it. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Right? You get that agent bio information, you get those custom pages, and then you get that data supported reality check, right? That's going to talk about those extended home facts. It's going to talk about why you refine the value based off of local market conditions. It's going to talk about those property values, sales history, mortgage information, deed record information, market activity. So you can see that estimated home value. You get that list price versus sales price. You get pricing adjustments. You get those volume trends. You get how that local inventory lines up. So you're getting all of that layering of information in that map. Okay? So these are those comparable properties. There's that local inventory. Here's the list of competing properties that are available for sale. Okay, so all of that is available through our data supported reality check. So you do have the ability to do that for your property seller. And one thing I want to talk about before we jump into the buyer tool as well, if you have a existing seller and you want to share local market activity as a competition report, maybe you want to send it out on a monthly basis. I can very easily, for any existing property that I have, if you go into RPR, you can jump into your saved properties, and right here you have a link to all of your current listings, right? So you can jump into those properties, you can pull up that property and then go right into your bigger map. And when you go into that bigger map, if you click into the geographies, you can come in and go into that macro neighborhood, and it's going to go ahead and pull up that neighborhood boundary. If this doesn't work for you, you can always go in and draw your shape and draw a shape around your neighborhood as well. And as soon as you set that marker, you're going to see right here, you can create a market area activity report. And that market area activity report is going to allow you to very quickly create that market snapshot, which is going to include median estimated home value. You're going to get 12-month change in value, the concentration of distressed properties. You're going to get that market summary, right? That page that we just saw. You can do this on a monthly basis for all new listings, pendings, price changes, solds. You can do it for single family homes that are right within your property's value range. And then you have the ability to email that report out on a monthly basis for all of those homeowners. So it does make it really easy for you to go to keep them up to date with market activity and pricing trends. We're going to jump into working with buyers. So if you have any questions on working with sellers, go ahead and get that question in now. Veronica is going to be able to answer that for you. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move it right along and talk about how to work with RPR for your buyers. So again, we're going to jump into the homepage, and we do have a couple of different searches that you have within the RPR platform. You can look for local properties that are listed for sale. You can also look for local properties that are for lease. So if you have residential for lease properties here, you can look both ways. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to use a zip code. The reason why I want to use a zip code, I'm going to type that zip code in. I just want to narrow down some of the properties that are available for sale. So I have my zip code in. Just below properties for sale, we do have our price range. So maybe I'm looking for properties anywhere. We'll do 650 to, let's say 900,000, right? That'll give us a good amount. I can look for properties and include beds. I can include bathrooms. I have an advanced property search where I can look for a keyword. Again, if I want a property that has a pool or a certain view, I can add that information into that keyword search. I can look for active and pending properties. You'll see just below that listing status here, we have our show indicator. And this is where we're going to be able to include all properties regardless of the type of sale. So if there's any sort of third-party approval, whether it's a short sale, maybe it's a pre-foreclosure or subject to auction. If it's a foreclosed or bank-owned property, that's automatically going to be included as well. If they're looking for that free, simple, and clear purchase, you can uncheck these boxes, and those get excluded from your property matches. You can search by living area, price per square footage, lot size. Again, all of those different property types. So we have single family, you have condo, townhouse, mobile, manufactured, lot, land, farm, ranch, all available within RPR. You can look for properties listed within a particular time frame, maybe had a price change. If they're looking for a year built, you have the ability to do that as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on this magnifying glass. It's going to execute my search, and it's going to bring up all of my properties. Now, I like my properties to be displayed in a list view or a map view. So you can kind of toggle on the upper left-hand side between both views. So if you're coming in and you like a property and you want to send them the list of all properties that are available, go ahead and hit that list view. And then again, you can go right up to the top and hit print this page. You can save it as a PDF and then email that out as an attachment. So you do have the ability to do that. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that. Close this window and then go back to our map view. Now from our map view, again, we do have some different ways to search for properties within the RPR platform. So let's say I want to go outside of that physical boundary, right? So maybe the city's too large, but the zip code is too small. You do have the ability to draw by using a map shape, and the map shapes in RPR are the same map shapes that you have in Matrix. You have your box, your radius, or a polygon. Your polygon is kind of like that connect the dots, right? Where you can come in and outline the area that you want to search. You want to do that latitude or longitude based search. So that's going to be how you can do that. So you can draw that shape. You also have the ability to use a map pin, and using a map pin is a unique feature because again, this is where you can come in, If they want to be close to the university here, you can come in and use the map pin and search by distance or drive time. So I can come in and click on that location and search within a mile, within 3 miles, within 5 miles. So if they want to be within that radius, you can search within that area. Now, anytime you're using a map pin, if you're doing a drive time or distance search, if the location is not visually seen on the map, if they want to be close to a family, friend, relative, point or place of interest, you can enter that property address in, and it's going to drop a pin into the map, and then you can search your distance out from there. So you do have the ability to search distance, and you have the ability to search drive time as well. So drive time is going to look at traffic flows. So if they want to be able to access the university within a 5-minute car ride on a day of the week at a certain time of day, you can hit that apply, and it's going to go ahead and set that boundary, and then you can search within that area. Now, your drive time, you can actually do car or walking. And I want to point out the walking because if you do a lot of walking, or if public transportation is popular in a certain area, you can zoom in and find those bus stations as well. So if they wanted to be close walking distance to a bus station, you can overlay those things onto the map. We have tons of places and points of interest that you can overlay if that is important to them, and then you can do your pin search out from that point or place of interest. You also have the ability to search based off of geographical boundaries. So we have counties, we have cities, we have zip codes. So if there's certain zip codes that they want to live in, you could come in and select those multiple zip code boundaries. And then you'll see you can search in those geographies. You have your macro neighborhoods all the way down to your micro neighborhoods. So I always suggest that you go into RPR and you look at these neighborhood boundaries. If I click into these neighborhood boundaries and zoom out a little bit, you'll see what these boundaries are. They're different all over the place. Every state, every county is different. So you can check out your macro neighborhoods. You can check out your intermediate neighborhoods. Yes.
So this is Michael Fry again. So
yes.
Good stuff, good stuff. I'm soaking it up here. I just want to take a minute to point out that these are not the same neighborhoods that are necessarily in High Central MLS.
Right. This is, Veronica may be able to back me up on this, but the neighborhood breakdowns come, I believe, from our mapping data sources as well as public record data sources. Okay, so it's not based off of the MLS neighborhood input sheet.
I just wanted to point that out for the folks on the phone or on the call, that these aren't necessarily going to match up with High Central MLS, the ones that the Realtor Association has kind of determined. But anyway, just be aware, just FYI, this is another way to slice the data. One's not necessarily better than the other. If you're familiar with the neighborhoods in Matrix, that's a neighborhood there, and these are neighborhoods from RPR. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And then we also have attendance school zones as well that you can search. So take advantage of these mapping tools within RPR. You have the ability to draw your shapes, to do your own latitude and longitude search boundary. You can use those map pins. And then you can use those geographies. And then you have the ability within RPR to save a custom search within the platform, and you can rename these searches as well. So if you want them to be named after a particular client or criteria, you can do that as well. So you get those properties right here from within your map view, and then you have your list view with your results. I'm going to go ahead and select a property here. Let's just take a look at this one. So again, even when you're looking at a property that's available for sale within the RPR platform, you're going to get that layering of information. So you do have the ability to come in. You're going to get that property indicator with the active date. You're going to get the list price with the RVM value. You're going to get the basic facts. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit different. The basic facts for the property is actually going to be from the MLS information, since the property is actively listed. We're going to get the layers of imaging here. So we're going to get that photo view. We're going to get the street view of the property. We're going to get the overhead view of the property. You're going to get the public marketing remarks for the property. You still have the ability to add notes. So if you want to go ahead and send a message to your buyer, you can come in and say, would you like to schedule a showing? Veronica may have more information when you guys can expect to get that integration with showing time. I don't know if that information is up to date in here yet, but that should be coming to you guys. We're going to get those home facts. Here you're going to see 3 columns of information. So we're going to get those home facts that come in from public record. And then you're going to get those listing record facts. So if you see a discrepancy, you can come in and clear up that discrepancy. And then that information would be included within your property report. You can cancel all of this information out as well. Median estimated home value, you're going to get that price change history. And now again, layering of information, right? You're going to get interior features from listing data, interior details from public record, exterior features from listing record, exterior details from public record. You're going to get those location details. You're going to get financing information. You're going to get tax information. So you're still going to get that layering of property data. You'll still get, if we come in, you still have access to that map, so you can see that local inventory. You can come in and look at those heat maps if you wanted to take a look at average sales price for the area. All of those layers are still here, even though it's an actively listed property. One of the things I also like here, if the property has historical MLS information, you're going to see a link right here where you can actually go in and view those historical records. And what I like about it is you can compare it to public record data. Now, if this property was listed 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the past, you would be able to look at all of those MLS listings. So this is a nice view to have for that buyer as well. And then, of course, you do have the ability to come in and refine that value for this actively listed property. You have the ability to create a comparative analysis for the purchase price of this property. And then when you go in to create a report, you can pick the property report that suits your buyer's needs the best. I want to point out 2 property reports. The top report that we have here is your extensive property report. Again, you can go in to show sample, open it up. You can preview what the report's going to look at. You can get an idea of the length of the report. And then we do have a link here that says more details. And I like to describe the property report as that combo buyer report. So your combo buyer report is going to contain that subject property information, right? The pricing trends for the property, the list price, the refined value, the comp analysis for that contract to purchase. It's going to contain those home facts. Now, part of the home facts for the property also includes the homeowner's name. So if you wanted to remove that from the report, you just uncheck the box. You're going to have those extensive home facts. Maybe the property was listed last year and they've done a lot of improvements. So you want to include those historical photos. You have the ability to include those, your comp analysis, your sales and financing activity, but it's also going to provide the buyer with our layer of neighborhood demographics. And neighborhood demographics, this is going to include almost like that realist information that you guys have, right? Population, growth, density, male to female ratio, the percentage of rent versus own. You're going to have people, that's population, growth, male to female ratio, household breakdown, economy, unemployment, average household income, rain, sun, snow, commute time is under that quality of life. And then you're also going to have that school information. So it's a very extensive report. You also have the ability to pick from our mini property report. And that mini property report, I like to call this is to me the kind of like the backyard buyer report. When you have that buyer, they've been searching for properties, they're familiar with the areas, they're familiar with the neighborhoods, they know the schools or they don't care about the schools. They just want the nuts and bolts. They want the property values, they want the home facts, they want those pricing recommendations. You can use this mini property report, which is a much smaller, it's less than half the size of those reports. So all of these, again, are customizable. Go in, check out the report. Once you go in and customize it with the content that you want, that becomes your standard default for all future reports that you generate. So you do have the ability to come in and create that mini property report as well. So that's available to you. I do have a question out there from Jean. I'm going to put you on the back burner for just a minute. One of the resources that you have through RPR when you're working with buyers is the ability to utilize the public record data that's available for you. So if you do have that buyer that's coming into your market, maybe they're not from one of the islands, maybe they're coming from, you know, California, or maybe they're moving from Florida or New York or New Jersey, who knows where they moved to the islands from. So with that public record data, if you do have that reload buyer and they're interested in having those neighborhood demographics and they're interested in knowing that school information, you have the ability to research that information from across the US. So I'm going to go ahead and use my own backyard for this scenario. If you have a buyer, maybe they're relocating to Hawaii, and they're moving from Florida, and they are coming from a state where the pricing for properties is drastically different, right? And their impression may be way off the mark from what's affordable in Florida to what would be considered affordable in Honolulu. So you can come in and say, well, hey, where did you live in Florida? And if they said, oh, well, I lived in this neighborhood in Palm Harbor, you can come right into our neighborhood search tool and you can put in the city that they lived in. If they can give you a zip code, that's even better. And then you can change this little neighborhood drop down to within. And if they tell you they're moving from Allen's Ranch in Palm Harbor, Florida, and their property value there was close to 400,000, and they were able to get, you know, a 3,000 square foot home, you can come in and pull up the neighborhood information for that specific neighborhood in Palm Harbor, Florida. You can see what the median estimated home value was. You could see property value growth month over month and year over year. You can see that sales price versus sales volume. You can look at the housing demographics to get an idea of the rent versus own, the household age. the median estimated home value and how that neighborhood compared to other homes in the local market outside of Hawaii. You can look at the people, the population, the growth, the density. So you have that that baseline of information to say, hey, I understand you're moving from Florida. I have information on the neighborhood or the zip code or the city that you lived in. And I just want to share with you how Hawaii looks comparison wise to your local data, because it's totally different in that part of the country. So having information like this, public record data like this, where you can say, hey, you know, I understand your kids went to this school and this was the rating for that school and the reviews and the test scores. Well, these are some of the local schools in our market, just so you can compare them if that's a driving factor for where they're going to live. So take advantage of the school data within RPR and the neighborhood demographic data if you're working with that relo buyer to help them get accustomed to what your local market is within your area. We are going to jump now from our desktop to our mobile device. So I'm going to throw it out there as I change screens. You're awfully quiet out there. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So again, throw those questions into that chat. And as I read it, so I have a question out there from Jean. What is the Valuate property analysis for investors in the summary section? I'm going to type our blog address in there, Jean. Check out our blog at blog.narrpr.com, and you can look for using RPR for investment. And you're going to get a ton of tutorials on what that is. But whether you're looking at an on or off market property within the RPR platform, we partner with a third-party company by the name of Valuate, and they allow you to generate a investment analysis for a parcel within RPR. You can do a long-term hold investment analysis for a period of 1 to 10 years. You can do a short-term or a flip hold investment analysis. You can do a mixed unit analysis if you wanted to identify rent rolls. You can actually do a back of the envelope analysis as well. And we take the information from RPR and we auto-populate it into our analysis tool, where you can come in and say, hey, we have someone that wants to purchase their property. They're going to purchase this for an investment scenario. They're going to flip it, or they're going to do a long-term hold. You put in your scenarios as far as revenue, operating expenses, growth rate, and it's going to show you the investment analysis over time, whether it's a levered or unlevered analysis. So that is a unique partnership that RPR has with Valuate. It's very cool. You can share the report with your investors. So if you have any investors that you work with, check out our blog for our investor training tools, because we have resources on that as well. So I didn't have any other questions coming in. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to switch my share over. Let me just check my mobile device real quick, because I'm going to get a whole bunch of notifications up on my phone. So I want to jump over to my mobile device. This is my iPhone. It's plugged into my computer, so you guys can actually see my screen. Sorry, guys. It's on Do Not Disturb, so I shouldn't get any calls or anything. But what I want to point out, this is my lock screen. You can see I have my my cyber sales for Walmart and Sam's Club that come up. But you'll see right in here, I have some reports that I generated out of RPR, and this is kind of cool. And these are some of those notifications. So if you get if you generate a report, or if there's a status change on a saved property, or or a value change on a saved property, you do have the ability to come in, and I can click right on that report from my home screen, and it's going to open my RPR app. It's going to pull up that report. So I really quick can come in. I can take a look at the report that I've generated. And then if I want to share this report, I can share it by text message. I can share it by email. I have the ability to share it through social media. So it's getting those alerts or those push notifications from RPR really come in handy, especially if it's a price change on a property that you have saved for a buyer, or if you have a property saved for you, and that there's an estimate of a value change. All that stuff comes over to the mobile app. So definitely take the time to check that out. If you don't have the mobile app installed on your Apple or Android-based device, it's going to work for tablets as well as iPads. I've gone back to my home screen, and I'm going to just jump into my app store. So again, if you're an iPhone user, go into your app store. If you are a Google Play, if you're an Android user, just go into Google Play, or what is that what they call it? Yeah, the Play Store. And it's going to open up, and you have the ability to come in. For some reason, my app store is not loading. But just search for RPR. Can't connect to App Store. This is an Apple thing. There it is. So I'm going to come in. I'm just going to go to my search tool, and then under search, I'm just going to type in RPR, and you want to find the search result that is RPR mobile with that little trademark logo. And this is the app right here that you can go ahead and get or open or install. And that's going to load the RPR mobile app onto your mobile device. The login for the mobile app is the same as the login for the desktop. So you have to have your username and password. But then once you're logged into the app, it pretty much keeps you logged in. So you don't log into it every time. From that point on, I have my RPR app on my home screen, and I can just click into it, and it's going to go ahead and load my home screen. So I have the mobile app. Just keep in mind, guys, even with the mobile app, this is a realtor-centric tool. So the app is not something that a consumer would be able to download and log into. It's really for agents to use only. And when we come into our mobile app with RPR, the app itself is created to work seamlessly with your mobile device. So there's going to be a lot of integration, and I don't want you to fear the integration. So when you get those wonderful little alerts that says RPR wants to use this, and RPR wants to use that, and RPR wants to access this, and RPR wants to access that, please allow us to access that information, because if you want to identify properties based off of the location that you're standing in, we need access to your GPS on your mobile device. If you want to send a report to a contact via email, we need to access your contacts. If you want to add a property photo to a listing, we need access to your camera. So there's a lot of permissions that you're just going to want to go ahead and approve, accept, allow, whatever it may be with the mobile device. And then once you're logged into the mobile app, you're going to see it brings you into the home page. And the home page is just going to share local inventory for where you're standing. So from here, you have properties within a mile radius of where I'm located. So it's depicting me to be in Wilhelmina Rise. It's giving me all of the local properties around that location. I could take my finger and swipe on my home screen, and the next screen is going to say, hey, these are the local market conditions, median estimated home value, median list price, public record sales price. And then I also get a search bar. So I can just take my finger and swipe through all of those home pages, right? And I can look at market conditions, I can search for properties, and I can look at local inventory. Now, if you go to the top of the screen, and when I'm showing this demo, don't try to go back and forth from your mobile device if you have your phone out or if you're trying to install the app. Just put the device down and check out the screen. If you go back to our blog, we have all of this recorded for you, and you can always reach out to our support desk for help. But I want to point out on the screen, we have 4 icons that go along the top here. So if I'm looking at properties within a mile of me and I want to see the 23 new listings, I just click on that link with my finger, and it's going to go ahead and give me that mile radius, and it's going to show me all of those properties within that radius. I can click on any of these to get a view of the properties, right? If I want to go back to the home page, I just click that house on the corner and it brings me back to the home page, right? So I can look at the 23 new listings. I can go back to the home page. I can look at the 38 properties that are available for lease. I can go back to the home page. I can look at the 65 recently sold, and then I can go back to the home page. But if I just want to see everything, if I want to see all the inventory, I want to see all the for sale properties, all the sold properties, all the for lease properties, I can click my little navigation guide up here. This is kind of like your compass, and that's just going to load that map view, right? Where I can see everything that's going on within that half-mile radius. And if I'm coming in every day saying a half-mile radius is way too far, I don't know why it loads a mile radius, I can go back to my home page, and then I can click on this gear on the upper left-hand side. And when I click on that gear, it's going to slide that home page over to the right, and it's going to open up some preferences and settings. So under here, I have a section for user settings, and the user settings allows me to configure that nearby. So if I'm coming in and it's depicting me to be in this location, but I don't want to see properties within a mile, I want to limit this to a half mile. I can click on that gear. I can go into my user settings, and I'm going to go to my set my nearby, and I'm going to grab that circular dot with my thumb, and I can set it to be 2 miles, 3 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles out, or as narrow as a half mile, right? Another thing I can do is highlight new listings. So let's say I work with buyers a lot and I only want new listings to stand out for the first 14 days that they're on market. I can change this little radio button and say, hey, highlight new listings for the first day, for the first 3 days, for the first 7 days, for the first 14 days, okay? If you have a very low days on market, you can highlight recent sales to be sold within the last 7, 14, 30, all the way out to 180 days out. So you're just using that thumb to drag those property indicators. There's not a saved here. So if you just go back up to the user settings and collapse it, it's going to go ahead and save those user defaults, right? And then you're good to go. And just below the user settings, I can click, and that's notifications. This is where you can get those push notifications. Remember, if you have that saved property and it goes from active to pending, or it goes from pending to sold, or it goes from off market to active, or active to expired, you're going to get that push notification for that saved property. If there's a list price change, if there is an estimated value change, you can go ahead and toggle these on and you're going to get that push notification. Once you configure those couple of preferences and settings, you can just click that gear at the top. It's going to slide it back over to the left. You can do a quick refresh, and now you can see how that information on our page changes, right? So we could come in and see all of those properties that are available for sale. So this one with the N is a new listing. It's been added to the MLS within the last 2 weeks, where the other properties that are just blue, those are active, but they're a little bit older. So you do have the ability to kind of use your finger and drag that map around. Right,
hey, Katie?
so you do have the ability to do that. Yes.
This is super awesome. I'm loving what I'm hearing here. I would just want to give a quick time check. It's 11:53. Your phone's saying 9:41.
Yep.
So,
it does. It does that for whatever reason. When I hook it up to the quick time, it kind of freezes the app, and it doesn't matter the time of day. It's always 9:41. I don't know why.
Well, I wanted to leave us a little bit of time. Do you have some closing thoughts you'd like to, or nuggets you want to leave us with?
There's one little nugget I want to share with you, and that is our reports to the bottom. So when you use the mobile app, if we're looking at properties that are available for sale, maybe we have a buyer that's interested in a particular property, you can pull up your phone if you want to check it out from the map view, or if you want to check it out from the 30 properties that are available for sale, or if you just want to go down to the bottom on the lower left side that says reports, you can create market area activity reports on the fly from the mobile device. You can create that neighborhood demographic report from your mobile device, but you can also create a buyer tour report from the mobile device as well. So again, it pinpoints your location, and then you can grab every actively listed property that's available within that device, whether the property is disseminated through the MLS, or if it happens to be a for sale by owner property that's in the area, you can add that property to your buyer tour as well. Right from the mobile app, the buyer tour is available through the mobile device only at this point in time. And you just hit that next button at the top. You can download or email that report to your client through your mobile device. Our mobile device also does a circular sync. So all of those saved properties that you have through your device, all of those saved searches that you have, whether it's a saved property from the desktop or from the mobile device, are available from the mobile app. And then at the bottom, we have a recent as well. And the recent is really for any recent property that you've looked at, any recent search that you've executed, whether you did that search through your mobile device or through your desktop, any recent report that you've generated. So if you wanted to create one of these reports, again, you wanted to share that report through social media. If you wanted to send a report by text message, you can do that as well. And let me just point out, when you work with your buyers, I love sending reports via text message. The reason I do, and I'm going to go back to my homepage to show you why I like to send reports by text message. I have 332 unread emails. I don't want to go through 332 unread emails to find an email from a realtor. I have 2 unanswered text messages. So it's a lot easier to pull information from a text message than it is from an email. So send those reports via text message. It makes it really easy, and it's instant gratification, which clients and customers love. Instant gratification, and we all love that little raid confirmation as well. And I know we're closing, and we do have, I think, a couple of prizes that we want to share, or a prize, right?
Before we go to the prizes, Katie, I have a problem leaving questions unanswered, especially after an awesome session like this. Alexandra Joseph asked, what are some reasons to share a report on social media?
Well, there's lots of reasons to share reports through social media. One of my favorites is for marketing. So anytime you have a new listing, anytime you have a property that's under contract, anytime that you have a property that's just sold, you can come into RPR. You can do it from your desktop, but you can do it from your mobile app. I actually love sharing reports through the mobile app, but you can come in and you can take that flyer report or that market area activity report and say, hey, I want to come in and just share this report on Facebook. You can post it to your page, you can share it with friends, you can attach it to an event. So if you're doing those virtual open houses, share that report through that source. Sharing reports through Instagram for price changes are a great one as well. So social media is a great way to get out there and market properties. And a lot of times, if you have a client, maybe you met them at an open house and they checked in or reached out to you through Facebook. Sharing information through messaging on Facebook is a great thing to do as well. So you have the ability to share all of those reports through those social media channels.
Michael, also that was awesome, Katie. The other thing is too, is that a lot of the RPR neighborhood reports, our school reports, can be used to create a social media marketing plan for yourself. And on our blog, we have a lot of ideas on how to do that. And we actually show the user step by step on how they can use those reports to create a drip campaign on social media using our reports.
That's excellent. You know, the old adage of being in between your audience and lunch. So I want to thank you so much for all the great information. Wow, Katie, my mind's blown, man.
It's a lot of info. Remember, we don't want you to be overwhelmed with this info. So use the training resources that we have available. Remember, in the desktop, we just had that Scholar Cap and we had that workflow plan for you. We have resources on our blog as well that are there for you.
That's very good.
And again, guys, as Veronica said, this is available to you at no additional cost. It's a member benefit.